With me now, Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Neama, thank you so much for joining. I mean, what would be the importance of someone like Kristina Khorram in a case like Diddy's? Could prosecutors pressure her to be a cooperator in some way, to flip her in some way in a criminal prosecution?
Laura, Khorram is extremely important. She's Diddy's right-hand woman, and obviously we both work for the DOJ, but when I was a prosecutor, my two best sources of information were always exes, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, and employees. They know where the bodies are buried. So she has a lot of criminal exposure, so I expect the feds to lean on her, make her flip, and cooperate in the trial against her boss, Sean Combs.
The lawsuit claims that people like her helped keep Diddy on drugs. Could Diddy then argue, based on that, that since he purportedly was on drugs, that he was not as involved with a conspiracy or leading a criminal enterprise as prosecutors say he was?
It's an argument, but not a good one. Voluntary intoxication, including drug use, generally is not a legal defense. And, if he's going to point the finger at others, we know that, at least allegedly, he's the head of the criminal enterprise. So I don't think that's going to be an effective argument. I think the issue will be is all the co-conspirators, they're on the hook. They're liable for the crimes committed in furtherance of the conspiracy. So even if someone like Khorram or someone else didn't actually participate in the sex acts, they could be charged and could be convicted of sex trafficking if the feds decide to go that route.
And again, there has only been one person criminally charged in this matter, and that's Diddy. The other people have maybe been sued or named in a civil lawsuit, but we'll see what happens in the future, if anything. What do you make and glean from the news that the grand jury that indicted Diddy is actually still interviewing witnesses?
Well, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said the investigation is ongoing, and that appears to be the case. Reportedly, one of the commercial sex workers is scheduled to testify before the grand jury and potentially other witnesses. And this is going to be important because, as we've discussed, it's important to lock in that testimony before trial. We know that this defense case is going to be based almost entirely on cross-examination. The argument will be that these sex acts were consensual. There was no force, fraud, coercion. So if people are testifying under penalty of perjury that they were forced, it's going to be a lot harder for them to change their testimony when we go to trial.
And of course, the secrecy of a grand jury proceeding is such that they want to protect the testimony and protect the intimidation that could possibly occur, which goes right to a heart of the matter the judge was dealing with in this instance. A judge keeping Diddy in jail, saying that he's concerned Diddy may tamper with witnesses. And the indictment, of course, details the lengths Diddy went to silence people, allegedly. How do prosecutors then ensure the safety of these witnesses, knowing that normally, in the average case, you're not going to know who's going in and out of a grand jury, but the high-profile nature of this is not happening?
Yeah, grand jury proceedings are supposed to be secret, but there's some very good reporting, and there's folks that are outside the U.S. Attorney's Office that are watching who enters and who exits. But I agree with you, Laura. I think it was Diddy contacting potential witnesses, victims. I think that was one of the determining factors for him being detained without bond, despite that very aggressive bond package that the defense put together. Obviously, in Don Richards' case, the allegation was he contacted her 58 times, phone and text, over a 4-day period. That, of course, could be potential obstruction, tampering, everything that you mentioned. And it really goes to the heart, really the integrity of our criminal proceedings. So I think the government was successful in arguing that the safest thing for Diddy and everyone involved in this case is for him to be locked up until trial.
You better believe I'm going to stay on this story. Neama Rahmani, thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura.